everyone and welcome back to my channel, or if you're new here, hi, my name is Nicole and I am a part-time reseller on Poshmark, and today I'm going to talk about the truth about reselling on Poshmark. There are a lot of misconceptions and a lot of things that people don't actually know about, selling on the platform or even buying on the platform. So I'm going to cover that in today's video. If this is something that you like, please feel free to like this video and make sure that you're subscribed, because I make a lot of videos on reselling content. I'd love to have you stick around for more content in the future. Okay, the first truth about reselling on Poshmark is that it is an interactive app, which means that if you are not interacting on the app, you are not going to make sales. It is so important, and I can't stress enough how important it is to be listing, sharing, following, anything of the sort throughout the day. You have to be active on the app. If you're not active, you're just not going to make sales. It's one of those platforms that kind of rewards you for being more active, and it's kind of more like a social media but also a reselling page. But like a lot of other sites are not like this. Like I think with eBay, it's more you just list it and then hope that it gets, seen by people. But Poshmark, you really have to be active. You can't just have listings that, you haven't shared in weeks, or stale listings that have been listed for 2 years. You need to relist those pieces, you need to share those pieces, you need to be active, you need to send out offers, you need to be engaging with your customers that are asking you questions. And if you're not doing this and you're not active on the app, Poshmark will definitely kind of like put your closet on the back burner, and you won't be making those sales like other people. So if this is, if you are new to selling on Poshmark and you don't have the time to be interactive, you need to have that time to give, otherwise you're not going to see those consistent sales. Consistency is so important with Poshmark, and also being on the platform is equally important to making those consistent sales. The second truth that I'm going to talk about in this video is that there are a lot of scammers on Poshmark, and unfortunately you just have to really be careful, because there are people that are selling fakes. There are people that are trying to scam you by telling you to email or text them more details of, the listing, and they're just trying to scam you. So that is why I always say it's so important to keep everything on the platform. But not only that, is just to be careful when you're purchasing. Make sure you're purchasing from people that look legit. I know it's impossible to know if somebody is actually a legit seller or not, but look to see if they have any reviews. Look to see how many other listings they've sold. Look to see their prices. Make sure that their prices are, the more established their closet is, probably the more trustworthy that they actually are. And this is not a, that's not always going to be the case, but for the most part, you could definitely trust a seller that has hundreds of, love notes or things like that. So just be careful. There are so many scammers on the platform, and I actually think it's only getting worse because there are so many more bots. So definitely make sure you're keeping an eye out. If you see any of those scammers out there, report their accounts, block their accounts, and hopefully going forward, Poshmark will kind of do something to prevent those scammers. But again, I think it's pretty impossible to do, and I think it's just getting easier and easier for people to come up with these scam accounts that are trying to get people out of their money. But just don't take anything off platform, and just be very, very careful when you are purchasing from a closet that maybe doesn't have any sales, or they kind of look a little shady. The next truth about reselling on Poshmark is people are going to send you lowball offers, and that's just the reality of the situation. And I know people don't like hearing that, and I know that it kind of sucks and it's a little discouraging as a seller, but here's the truth behind it is, with Posh shows and with these auctions where people could get things super cheap, people want to continue to get things super cheap. And I'm not saying that this is the only reason why people want things cheap, because I think it's also the economy. I think it's just the times that we're living in where people can get things super cheap in general. And, with all like the fast fashion brands out there that, sell things really, really cheap, people just want a good way to get like pieces. And especially because Posh shipping is kind of expensive, they feel like if they pay less for the item and then they have to pay the shipping, the lowest you could pay for something on Poshmark is like $10 or $11, because that's at $3 plus the $7.97 shipping. And at that point, you're basically making nothing on the sale as a seller. So you just need to keep in mind that, people want things cheap, but people are still going to purchase things for a good price. And while there is going to be a lot of people that want to get things really cheap and want to send you a lowball offer, there are people that are going to purchase full price, so you don't have to give in to every lowball offer. I would not decline them. I've talked about in a couple of videos how I think that's so important to not decline and always counter. So counter them, see if they will accept another offer from you, or, you know, kind of meet in the middle. But you don't have to get discouraged with those lowball offers. They're going to happen all the time on Poshmark, and in fact, I think they're only going to get worse from here on out. So it's so important to, you know, not let them bother you, not take offense to them, and just keep powering forward, and you will have a lot more success on the platform. And the final thing to remember about Poshmark, and this is kind of like a secret hidden truth that like is really hard to accept as a seller, but Poshmark is mainly a buyer first platform, meaning that they are going to take the buyer side in a lot of situations. And I think they want to protect their buyers, which to me doesn't really make a lot of sense, because without sellers you don't have buyers. There's no platform for them to sell on. But at the end of the day, if sellers are just listing things and buyers aren't, you know, buying things, then there's no platform either. So I kind of understand, but I think they need to kind of go kind of in the middle and not just necessarily take the buyer's side. But they do have a buyer protect program, which is basically them protecting buyers when they purchase things. So often in times you'll get cases opened against you, and a lot of the times they'll be very, very bogus, ridiculous cases, and Poshmark will actually end up siding with the buyer most of the time. Now, in cases of them saying like, oh, the item doesn't fit me, or I just don't like the item, or something like that, they won't side with the buyer, they will side with the seller. But if in any way the buyer can prove that the item is not exactly what you listed, or it's not, you know, the right measurements that you listed or anything like that, Poshmark will side with them. Even if they kind of claim that the item is damaged and it wasn't damaged, they will side with the buyer. And I think the worst part about this is there are so many buyers out there that do kind of like change the item or damage the item or lie about things. I've had plenty of situations where people have opened cases on me and tried to claim that the item was damaged, tried to claim that the measurements weren't accurate, and all these different things, and Poshmark generally sides with the buyer 9 times out of 10. So just keep that in mind with your listings. Make sure you're as upfront as possible, make sure you're being as specific as possible, and make sure that when you are doing your measurements and stuff, you list them very clear in the picture, so there's no way that they can be misconstrued, and then that way that can kind of help you back yourself up when it comes to somebody opening a case or anything like that, because Poshmark will protect the buyer over you, and you will have to either accept a return or give them a partial refund, and I don't really like doing either of that, especially if you sell things cheap. Okay, so I hope this video kind of gave you some insights about the truth of reselling on Poshmark. I do love reselling on Poshmark, and I do love the platform in general, but these are just things to keep in mind. If you are a seller, they are things that will affect your sales and your business on Poshmark, so it's important to keep these in mind and maybe, you know, act accordingly. If these are tips that you like and you didn't, if you learned something in this video, make sure you give it a like and make sure that you're subscribed. And if you want to see another video on maybe reasons why your listings aren't selling, you can click right here. And if you want to see another video on maybe some recent flips that I had that I bought for $1 at my Goodwill and how much I was able to sell them for, you can click right here. But until next time, I will see you then.